diving club?
No, it was the code is 9988. The pin.
Dive Hub, your program?
It is.
It is?
It's just like I have so many videos.
Divers. Oh, that's lovely. Divers for the girls B and boys B 1 meter. Come meet me by the 1 meter sides. Divers on the 1 meter event. Come and see me.
Straight through YouTube.
We're having a meeting right now. Divers on 1 meter over here.
Divers! Good!
Olivia, you guys are all good?
Yes.
All right, this is live streaming.
Chris, do I have time to get food?
It will be up after the event too, if you want to just wait. Sorry.
I'm going to talk. I got to hear the guy. Or, Gail. I think so, yeah. I just got to make sure. Yeah. If Gail has to say something.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm sorry. No, don't be sorry.
Judges.
I'll be ready for when he screws up. How's that? When there's an issue with the item, I will be ready.
I'm starting right now. I didn't have to protest.
I refuse. Oh, I'm going to protest.
17?
What we got? Gabriella, you ready? Cable, you ready?
Yeah, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5.
Okay. Perfect.
Work?
Yeah. Should we start?
Yeah, ready when you are.
All right.
Starting the first round of the girls 14-15 1-meter event, Gabriella doing a 201B. Awards. 5.5, 6.5, 5.5, 6.5, 6.5. Eiley, 103B.
Did I pronounce her name right? Kylie? I should have asked.
Awards. 6, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5. Emery, 103B. Awards. 4.5, 4.5, 4, 4.5, 4. Knox, 201B. Awards. 5, 5.5, 6.5. Emerson, 103B. Awards. 6.5, 5.5, 6.5. Quinn, 401B. Awards. 6.5, 7, 6.5, 6.5, 7. Lucy, 103C. Awards. 5.5, 5, 4. Tegan, 103C. Awards. 6.5, 7, 6, 7, 6. Maeve, 103B.
Do you know how to pronounce her name? Noella? Noella?
Noella, I would just say Noella.
Awards. 5, 6.5, 5, 6, 5.5. Allison, 103C.
What did you do when assistant referee? What? Can you repeat that again?
103C.
Are you? Allison? Oh.
It says
C.
this is I'm probably one of these.
Yeah, Allison, 103C.
Yeah, but
Awards. 5, 5, 4.5, 5, 5. Noella, 103B.
Is that how you pronounce her name?
Awards. 6, bingo. Hazel, 103B. Awards. 5.5, 6, 6, 5.5, 5. Natalie, 101B. The block has been declared. This is awards.
Should I subtract you automatically?
yeah,
Okay. 3?
yes. Just announce it the way it is.
Okay.
5, 4.5, 5, 5, 5.
See the box has been declared?
Yeah, I did already. Yeah.
Starting the boys' first round, Oliver, 401B. Awards. 4.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 5. Eric, 103C. Awards. 5.5, 6, 6, 6, 6. Caleb, 103C. Fourth.
Big top, Caleb.
5, 4, 3.5, 4, 4. Christian, 103B. Fourth. 5, 5.5, 6, 6, 6. Philip, 103B. Fourth. 7, 7, 7, 7, 8. Roman, 103B. Fourth. 5, 5, 4.5, 5, 5. Adam, 103C. Fourth. 6.5, 8, 6.5, 7, 7.5. Starting the second round, Gabriella doing a 401B.
I got you, man. I got right there.
Fourth. 5.5, 6.5, 5.5, 6.5, 6.5. Riley, 201C. Fourth. 4.5, 6, 5, 5.5, 5.5. Emery, 201C. Fours. 4.5, 5, 5, 5.5, 5.5. Knox, 301B. Fours. 5.5, 6, 6, 6, 6. Emerson, 201B.
Alright. I think you might miss the first part of this, but he's the referee games it to you. You can get the first make eye contact and then alright. Also I will. Good job.
Fours. 5.5, 6, 5, 6, 6. Quinn, 103B. Four. 5.5, 6, 6, 6, 6.5. Lucy, 201C. Fours. 5.5, 5.5, 6, 5, 5.5. Deegan, 201C. Four. 6.5, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7.5. Maeve, 201B. Forbes. 3, 2, 2.5, 3, 2. Allison, 201B. Forbes. 5, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 6. Noella, 201B. Forbes. 5, 5, 4.5, 5, 4.5. Hazel, 201A. Fours. 4.5, 4, 3.5, 4, 3.5. Natalie, 201C. Fours. 4.5, 4.5, 4, 4.5. Last judge, sorry. Last judge's score. Thank you, 5. Starting the boys' second round, Oliver, 103B. Fours. 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5.5, 6. Eric, 201C.
Just like in practice. Get a really great score. Pick a little bit higher. And then go together. You got it. It's so warm over here. Fours. 6, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Caleb, 203C. Fours. 3, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. Christian, 201B.
201B. Forwards. 6, 5.5, 5.5, 6.5. Roman 203C. One and a half, 1, 2,
Roman.
1.
Roman, you're a little early.
Adam 201C.
Yeah. So you see the board, and then I'll announce your dive. We'll look at the referee. And then
Fours. 7, 7, 6.5, 7.5. Starting the third round, Gabriella 103B. Fours. 5, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5. Kylie 301B. Forwards. 5, 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5. Emery 301C. Forwards. 6 bingo. Knox 401B. Forwards. 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 6. Emerson 401B. Forwards. 6, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7. Quinn 201B.
back that color. That's 4-1.
Oars. 6.5, 6.5, 6, 6, 6.5. Lucy 301C.
My next step is back that top, right? Oh. Right? Oh. How do we mess that up?
Oars. 4.5, 5, 4.5, 5.5, 4. Tegan 301C.
I'm really good at my efforts, so perfect. Okay. Good job.
Oars. 6, 7, 6, 7, 7. May 401D. Allison, 301B. Fours. 5, 5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Noella, 301C. Fours. 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 6. Hazel, 302C. Fours. 5, 5, 4, 4.5, 5. Natalie, 301C.
Did I miss her?
Fours. 3.5, 3, 2, 3.5, 2.5. Oliver doing a 302C. Fours. 5, 5, 5, 4.5, 4.5. Eric, 301C. Fours. 5, 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5. Caleb, 301C. Fours. 4, 4.5, 4, 4.5, 4. Christian, 301B. Fours. 5, 4.5, 5, 5, 5. Philip, 301B. Fours. 5.5, 6, 5.5, 6.5, 6. Roman, 301C. Fours. 4.5, 5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Adam, 301C. Fours. 7, 7, 7, 7, 8. Starting the fourth round, Gabriella, 301C. Kylie, 401B. Four, 6, 7, 6.5, 7, 6.5. Emery, 401C.
You got it, Emery. Oh, nice.
Fours. 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 6. Knox, 5231D. Fours. 4.5, 4.5, 5, 5, 3.5. Emerson, 301B. Fours. 4.5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Quinn, 301B. Fours. 4, 3.5, 4, 4, 3.5. Lucy, 401C. Fours. 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5. Tegan, 401C. Fours. 6.5, 7.5, 7, 7.5, 8. May, 301B. Fours. 5, 4, 4, 4, 4. Allison, 401B. Fours. 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 6. Koala, 401B. Fours. 5, 6.5, 4.5, 5.5, 5.5. Hazel, 401B. 4.5, 4.44. Starting the boys' fourth round, Oliver 201C. Ford. 5.5, 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Eric, 401B.
I've got like 6 weeks, but I think I'll be end up being earlier before graduating. So, kind of nice.
Ford. 5, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5. Caleb, 401B. Ford. 5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Christian, 401B. Ford. 4.5, 4.5, 4, 5, 4.5. Philip, 401B. Ford.
Can you move out of the way? Thank you.
7, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7.5. Roman, 401C. Ford. 6, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 6. Adam, 403C. Ford. 6, 7, 6, 6, 6. Starting the fifth round, Gabriella, 5233D. Ford. 6, 5.5, 6, 6, 5. Eileen, 5231D. Ford. 6 6.5, 6, 6, 6.5. Emery, 5122D. 5.5. Knox, 103B. Fours. 5.5, 6, 5.5, 6.5, 6.5. Emerson, 5132D.
Just like your last one in warm up, you
Fours. 4.5, 5, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Queen, 5231D.
So great.
Four. 5 bingo. Lucy, 5122D. Fours. 4, 3, 3, 3.5, 2. Tegan, 5132D.
so well.
Fours. 6, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 7. Maeve, 5231D. Fours. 6, 6.5. Allison, 5223D. Fours. 5, 5, 4, 4.5, 5. Koala, 5223D. Fours. 4.5, 5, 5, 5, 5.5. Basil, 5221D. Fours. 5, 4.5, 4, 4.5, 4. Natalie, 5124D. Fours. 3.5, 4, 4.5, 4, 4. Starting the boys' fifth round, Oliver, 5231D. Fours. 5, 5, 4.5, 5, 6. Eric, 5231D. Fours. 3 bingo. Kayla, 5122D.
So I took half your specific, and then I didn't think anything.
Fours. 3, 4, 4, 3.5, 4. Christian, 5132D. Fours. 3, 2.5, 2.5, 3, 2. Philip, 5231D. Fours. 6.5, 7, 6, 6, 6.5. Roman, 5231D. Fours. 4.5, 4.5, 4, 4, 4.5. Adam, 5231D. Fours. 5, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Starting the girls' sixth round, Gabriella, 105C. Fours. 5, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 6. Eileen, 303C. Four.
Allison.
4, 5, 4.5, 4, 5. Emery, 104C.
You got it, Emery. Come on. Good spin.
4. 4.5, 4.5, 3, 3.5, 3. Knox, 104C. Fours. 5.5, 5.5, 4.5, 6, 5.5. Emerson, 403C.
That was beautiful. Great job. Don't feel too bad. You did the touch that I wanted. That was so good. I'm really proud of you. It's better to go over than it is to go short. I don't know. It's such a good practice. That is really
Fours. 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 5. Lucy, 202A. Fours. 5, 5.5, 4.5, 5, 4.5. Tegan, 105C. Fours. 6.5, 6, 6.5, 6.5, 7. Maeve, 104B. Fours. 5, 5.5, 4.5, 4.5, 5. Allison, 303C. Fours. 3.5, 4, 4, 4, 4. Koala, 104C. Fours. 6, 6.5, 5.5, 6, 6.5. Hazel, 5122D. Fours. 5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Natalie, 103B.
It's on there.
Fours.
Sorry.
4, 5, 4, 5, 4. Sorry, the boys. Oliver, 203C.
That sounds wrong. Yeah. It kind of has a tiny bit of pause. It's like pause between no and Ella. It's like no yellow. Like not one full word.
Okay. No yellow. No yellow. No yellow.
Awards. For bingo. Eric, 105C.
Yay, bingo.
Awards. 3.5, 3.5, 3, 3, 3. Caleb, 5221D. Awards. 3.5, 2.5, 2.5, 3, 3. Christian, 104C. 4, 3.5, 3.5. Philip, 105B.
I think that was the wrong dive.
Awards. 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. Roman, 5132D. Awards. 3, 2, 3.5, 2.5, 3. Adam, 105C.
Ooh, that was nice.
Awards. 5.5, 6.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Starting the girls, 7th round, Gabriella, 203B. Awards. 4.5, 3.5, 3, 4, 3.5. Eileen, you get 203B. Awards. 4.5, 5, 4, 5, 5. Emery, 302C.
You got it, Emery. Nice.
Awards. 5, 5, 5, 4.5, 4. Knox, 203B. Awards. 5.5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Emerson, 5223D.
Yeah. I might be able to put an apple. Okay. You got it. I'm pretty confident now. Good, good.
Awards. 5, 5, 5.5, 5, 5. Quinn, 303C.
What are they doing?
Just left. They had to call. They had to call the fire department.
Well, at least they got a good show.
Yeah.
They came at a great time. Ooh, that was quick.
Awards. 7, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7.5. Lucy, 302C. Awards. 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 5. Egan, 403C. Maeve 203C. Forwards. 5-5, 4.5, 5-5. Allison 403C.
You're very powerful, and tough, and confident. The only thing I'm nervous about is sitting down. You'll be okay. You got this. Yeah. Just have a really good one.
Forward. 5.5, 6-6, 5.5, 5.5. No yellow, 403C.
I guess they didn't think they're still here. They didn't think they're still here on the first part.
I know, they came back. You feel that breeze behind you, you're like, they're there.
It's too good of a show to pass up. I would come back to it.
Oars. 5, 6, 5, 5.5, 5.5. Hazel 104C.
It's crazy how strong some of these kids are.
That's insane.
Oars. 5, 4.5, 4.5, 4, 4. Natalie 402C.
I'm impressed with the boys. I mean, they're getting
I know. They're so strong. And they're what?
Are they 16, 18, or? Yeah, that's insane.
Oars. 4. 4.5, 4, 4.5, 4, 5. Starting the boys 7th round, Oliver 403C. Oars. 5.5, 4.5. Eric 203C. Oars. 3.5, 4.5, 4, 4.5, 4.5. Caleb 104C. Oars. 3, 2, 3, 2.5, 2. Christian 203C. Roman, 403C. Ord, 4.5, 5, 4.5, 5, 5. Adam, 203C.
I feel bad for the poor live stream, just hearing me gasp. Oh, that was nice.
Ord, 6.5, 7.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7.5. Started girls, 8th and final round, Gabriella, 52.25D. Ord, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 5. Eileen, 403C. Ord, 5.5, 6, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Emery, 203C.
You got it, Emery.
Ord, 4.5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Knox, 403C. Ord, 4, 5, 4.5, 5, 4.5. Emerson, 104C.
Yeah, but unfortunately you're on 1 meter. On the next one, it's like a summer it's about with your arms above, really kind of everything. But you can so you can go anywhere, like any days.
Ord, 6, 6, 5.5, 6, 6.5. Quinn, 403B.
Okay. I only coach on Saturdays just because I have like my big corporate that I can't make it here. That's true. Yeah. I might start coaching on Saturdays. So on Saturdays, on Thursday. Yeah.
Ord, 5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Lucy, 402C.
I just like small.
Ord, 4.5, 5, 5, 4.5, 4. Tegan, 303C. Ord, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 5, 5. Maeve, 403C. 104C. Fours. 5.5. Noella, 5132D. Fours. 5.5. 5.5. Hazel, 403C. Fours. 4.5. 6. 5.5. 5.5. 5. Natalie, 302C. Fours. 4. 4.5. 4.5. 4.5. 4. Let's try the boys' game. Brown Oliver, 5132D. Fours. 3.5. 3.5. 4. 4. 2.5. Zurich, 303C. Fours. 4.5. 5.5. 4.5. 4.5. Caleb, 402C. Fours. 4.5. 4.5. 5. 4.5. 5. Christian, 303C. Fours. 3.5. 2. 2. 2.5. 3. Philip, 203B. Four. 6. 6.5. 6. 6.5. 6. Herman, 105C. Four. 3. 2.5. 3. 3. 2. Adam, 404C. Fours. 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Starting the boys tonight the final round, Oliver, 105C.
Good job.
Fours. 2.5, 2.5, 3, 3, 3. Eric, 403C. Fours. 5, 5, 6, 5, 5. Caleb, 302C. Fours. 4.5, 4.5, 5, 4.5, 4.5. Christian, 403C.
Then we have awards on 5. Then we're doing awards on 5. Okay.
I'll go get that.
Perfect, thank you.
Awards. 5, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 5.5. Philip, 303C.
That's pretty.
Awards. 6, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5. Roman, 302C. Awards. 4.5, 4, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Adam, 5134D. Awards. 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5, 5. That concludes the boys and girls 14-15 1-meter event. Thank you, drivers, judges, refs, and table workers.
Great job. Thank you very much. Sorry, what were you saying earlier?
There were 8 ways. If there were 8 ways to pronounce that girl's name, you hit every single possible one on every single round.
Usually, I don't know how to pronounce it. I have to find out. You pronounce it. So it's either last.
Get it?
Yeah, Noella.
No
I
yellow.
did Noella the whole time. Yeah, only took me 8 tries.
Probably don't need to run this far. What's the battery go?
I set off alarms. Yeah, baby.
And then before, like 20 minutes out. Rosa. Thank you. Can, are you guys anyone out? So can you just help her with just getting me a couple ready for this next one? Like,
anymore.
Okay.
All right.
Or unless everything's changed.
I don't
work
know.
there anymore.
Good. Good.
She was asking what the rules are, and I said what the rules are, and then I was like, I actually don't know. Like top 15.
Top 15 automatically qualify two zones, and then when everything's done, they do the average of all the zones.
Right. Next
All
was the
that-
highest
all that.
scoring dive.
And we have no recall.
You have to get a good photo. Matilda's on photo duty, so are you, but I'm counting on her and you.
Okay.
Stefan hit a home run.
There was a 13. There was 13 in your group, and you're giving awards for the top 12.
Yeah, top 12, yeah. Yeah, poor Natalie is the only one who doesn't get a medal. Who's Natalie? She's last place, 13. I don't know. What happened out here? I don't know. It just like, I wore a turtleneck yesterday. Well, not a turtleneck, was it? It was like a regular knitted one. I don't know what happened. Maybe like a necklace come over. I know, my necklace like left here, so I have it here. But I don't know why the necklace would be here. No idea. It doesn't hurt. It's not like a scratch. I don't know, bruise. I don't know.
Power back, and then split back together. Now it's Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go get the results for the other one.
No, you're good. No, this morning I was just like, yeah, we need 12 medals. There are only 2 people competing. You're fine.
Okay. And then there was more than 12. So
Yeah.
12.
I was looking at the number of rounds. What? This is a very
I like this necklace. They're my grandma's.
Wait, you're really cute.
I took it out. The only jewelry I have is my grandma's stuff.
I'll help you. I'll get you new stuff.
Yeah, I need to.
You're gonna look so good.
I got an offer at a law firm in DC for next summer, so
Wait, I'm so
I'm
happy for
actually
you.
gonna have to be like a corporate.
Wait, no, I will help you so much. Wait, I'm so excited. I'm also helping Sarah with her work
Yeah.
outfits because she's a big girl shopping
Yeah.
for work
When
now.
you say you're helping, are you a personal shopper or something?
Well, I really like
She's just
fashion.
stylish.
You can't tell right now, but like I love popping off in the office.
Meanwhile, I wear this just chill.
Well, you're at school. This is fine. This looks great. This looks great. If I was going to school, I would also just wear this.
At school, I'm known as I dress like an athlete.
Because you are, and you'll never stop being one.
Even when I work,
Yeah, apparently the athletes name tags with girl
oh, you look really nice today. Sorry, I said she said, oh, you do too, and I said I'm
Are
wearing
we
jeans.
going to be able to have a quick lunch
You
together?
want that athletic fit? And it's like I'm wearing jeans.
I think this is so funny. I spoke of our girls. They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, so you talk about
Everything I wear.
You're just like a sporty chic girl.
okay, are we taking her normal or is everyone?
Oh my god, I have them.
No, it's you will take her.
Two of our best.
No. Give it up. No, we don't stay down here.
Just how long?
2 hours. Yeah, no, I don't want to stay there.
Yeah, okay.
The next day's Mother's Day, so.
Okay.
saved on YouTube later too, so. I don't have to, it's just
Okay.
bonus.
So like this, they're not in this one.
So for the event, I just did this, so you can see the 3 meters in the back and the 1 meter here. Yeah, like my friend always knows. I always tell them, like, send them the video so they can see the good talk and then
Yeah.
my college time. Actually, college fees are hard because they're like, if we're not allowed to buy this Big Ten Network owns it. So if I just like put something up that I don't make any money on, just so parents who can't come can watch it, it's like illegal.
Well, I know like at other meets, like we go for like gymnastics tournament. And like we were at a wrestling tournament and it was for qualified for state. And my son was next and the people were videoing everybody in that bracket. Well, when he got up, yeah, it's like this. He got up, tail is and so beat him, but I was like, I don't know how to do that. Just set up a timeline for 3 months and try to beat.
So when I was in school, I had like a minor math, right? And one of the people was like, as a coach, like one of your main jobs is to protect the kids from the
Yeah.
right? Like if we had a move on, and then parents are like, why is my kid not doing it? Like if they go up on the board right now and do it, and they do it, like I have to do it. Like no, they cannot do it until it's tell them what to do.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, no, this other level. It's like, okay, so
Yeah.
I didn't kill yourself.
Yeah. There's some crazy parents of just. Yeah, whereas my husband was like looking at the thing here and he's like, just not like, Dad, tell Dad some sister. And he's like, tell Chris if he wants me to go to the He's like, well, what do you need to do? Okay, whatever. He's like, we don't need to fully.
And it's fine. It's replacing the hinges because like that clipped on the ceiling. Up there and take it off. Another one. They,
Bruh.
chill out. What's with your attitude all the time, huh?
As soon as
You sound ridiculous, Emery. Alright, what was I going to do?
Is this live? How do you see it live? And what would you search up?
Diving Cup. You know the channel where I put all the dives up? It's on there.
Oh, okay.